I'm thankful to be here. I appreciate everybody being here. I do have 4 stores in North County, but I'm opening up one in downtown in North Plaza this upcoming year. And I want to talk to you a little bit about growing up in the retail world, and in the process try to give you some nuggets that I've learned in the 39 years that I've been involved in natural foods. Now, I'm hoping there may be one person out there that might be looking at me and saying, 39 years, he doesn't even look like he's 39. At least maybe 49, somebody's saying. Not 49, I started it when I was 10 years. Anyway, I grew up on the East Coast, and as a young person, I was pretty smart, was into athletics, but really didn't have a lot of direction as to what I wanted to do when I got older. And after finishing 1 year of college, I decided to come out and visit my brother who was living out in California, in San Diego. And the idea was that I was going to travel up and down the coast. But I came out to San Diego and really never got outside of San Diego. My brother was involved in a bunch of alternatives. He was part of the Ocean Beach hippie group. He worked at a quote-unquote free school. He was a teacher there. And the school was attached economically to a natural food store. It was actually called the Workers Collective. And I got involved in the Workers Collective from the get-go. And in the process of doing that, I got to understand about food, the environment, quite a bit about organics, and I really became totally immersed into it. And what had happened was, I had found something, after kind of not sure what I wanted to do, I had found something that I really became passionate about. This was something that really resonated with me, and I was fortunate. And that is nugget number 1. If you can, find something that you're passionate about. Find something that you love to do. Because if you do that, as they say, if you find something that you really care about, you never have to work a day in your life. So I really got involved in it, and at the time, I didn't even know the difference between an avocado and a fig. But I learned a lot. I learned about, sustainable agriculture. I learned about organics. I learned about local. And I did this for 11 years before I opened my first store in 1984 in North Park. And when I opened that store, I wanted to open it up with a feeling like, I don't care about the money so much. If I made $1 million or I failed, I wanted to do it with heart, with integrity. I wanted to be able to look at myself at the end of the day and say, I did the right thing. And that's what I did. I mean, I was very much into the organics. I was very much into the local. And one of the first things that I realized when I had my own store instead of working at another store was it was really important to hire people with a good attitude. So that's nugget number 2. Hire people who have good attitudes. You can teach people skills, but it really is hard to teach people attitude. So it was very important because the people working for me was an extension of me. Customers aren't going to come into a place if they don't feel good about the environment that they're shopping in. And to have a good environment, you need to have friendly people. After having my store for a year, I was pulled aside by this elderly gentleman who had been shopping ever since I had opened my first store. And this was the kind of individual who when he went shopping, he had a notepad, and he would write everything down that he was buying. And by the time he went to the register, within pennies, he knew how much he had spent. So he had done this for a year, and he says to me, "Do you mind if I talk to you?" And I said, "No, absolutely not." He says, "I just want to tell you that I've been doing a comparison, and I've compared how much money I spent prior to your opening in a year, compared with what I've spent since you've been open in this past year." And I was kind of bracing myself because I expected, selling organics and high quality food, that he was going to give me some information that maybe I didn't want to hear. Anyway, he says, and I can't remember the exact dollar amount, he says, "Since you've opened in the year, I spent approximately $300 more than I spent where I used to shop at the conventional market." And I was thinking, that's not too bad. But what he said to me afterwards, is probably the most profound thing that has been said to me in all my years of retail. He said, but I can't tell you how much money I've saved on doctor's bills, and he said, I can't tell you, I have never felt better in my life. And so it really hit me, and this is nugget number 3, you can't put a price on health. There's all this talk about healthcare and healthcare reform, and what it really is doing is putting a Band-Aid. It's not dealing with the problems prior to it. I mean, with all these issues about obesity and other concerns, we're not really addressing the problem before it happens. So the thing to do is really look at this. I keep this in the back of my mind. What this individual had told me is, when you are what you eat. So if you want to feel good, eat well. Anyway, I opened my second store in Carmel Valley in 1992. And that's when I had to make another transition. I transitioned from being able to be at one store all the time to having a store, 2 stores, and I couldn't be on the floor all the time. So I had to do the next step, which was to hire people smarter than me. And in the beginning, when I had my first store, I felt like I needed to do everything and I needed to be better than everybody else. But I realized when I opened the second store that the best thing I could do is hire people who knew more than I did. And it made my life a whole lot easier. And I joke to this day that people who might meet me on the streets or who got to know me might say, that Jimbo, he's not really that intelligent, but he does know how to hire the right people. And if that's all they said about me, well, that's great, I'm fine with that. So that's nugget number 4, hire people who are smarter than you. And I think I need to, you need to grab this. About a couple years into having my Carmel Valley store, I had a manager come up to me and he said, listen, Jimbo, I really don't think you understand how much your words mean. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you're a busy guy and you don't get on the floor very much, but every time you talk to the staff, they listen to every word that you say. You mean so much to them. And I said, and I was getting upset. I was thinking, because being from New York, I have a sarcastic side to myself, and sometimes I can rub people the wrong way. But I always thought I was just kind of one of, I was no better than anybody that even worked for me. I just happened to be the owner. Anyway, he said, these people, they hear you talk to them maybe once or twice a week, and you may only speak to them for a couple minutes, and you're the owner, and they really listen to every single word. So I was getting upset and kind of left the manager there, and I went home and I said, who's this guy trying to tell me how I should behave to my staff? And I started to process it, and I started to think about it, and then I realized that he was right, that my words did mean a lot, and that I had to be careful about the way I talked to my staff because they looked up to me. Right or wrongly, the way it was set up, I was the owner, and what I said to them really meant a whole lot to them, and that I needed to be careful about what I said and how I said it. So that's nugget number 5. Shortly thereafter, I'm going for 39 years to get through in 15 minutes. It's not a lot of time, so I'm going through it. I hired a consultant, and one of the things he told me was I really needed, I've been in business for about 10 years by now, I had no mission statement. He said, it's really important to do that. And I said, that's kind of hokey stuff. What do you need a mission statement for? But he convinced me the importance of it. And to this day, it's how we run our business. So I'm going to put that up here. And let me tell you, this wasn't part of my original nuggets, but I should tell you now, come prepared. I don't think most of you can read it. I can barely read it. I just happen to know it. So I apologize. But this is how we run our business. And the vision is we have a piece of organic fruit in every child's recycled lunch bag. And then our mission is to provide the highest quality organic and natural foods. The next thing is 5 items which we call a Bill of Rights. And each one of them has an incredible amount of importance to us. The first thing is to take care of our customers and to listen to them closely so we can do the right thing by them. Without customers, you have no business. The second thing is to really get involved in the community. I've always been a strong believer that if you succeed in business, and probably because if you have any chance of succeeding in business, you have to give back to the community that you live in. And that's what we do, and that's what we have done ever since we've been in business. We don't really advertise about pricing. We don't get into that end of it, but what we do is try to give back and do various charitable events. We do a lot with the schools. One of the first initiatives I had when we hired our first director of marketing, I said, go out into the schools and connect with the schools. We want to be able to do whatever we can to help the schools and get kids involved and understanding, hopefully, that there are other ways to eat than the typical American fare. And one of the proudest moments I ever had was we had a volunteer call one time, and she said to me, you know, Jimbo, I really hate to ask you, but we need another donation. And I said, why do you hate to ask me? She says, I hate to ask you because I know you're going to say yes. And that really hit me. I was like, wow, we really did. We got to where we needed to go. The third thing is by taking care of your staff. And that is to provide competitive environment, pay them well, to train them well. And, you know, when you look at the first item, which is take care of the customers, a lot of people say that's the most important thing. And in some ways it is. But really, the best way to take care of your customers is to take care of your staff. Let them know how much you appreciate them. Let them know how much you mean to your business. Because without them, you're nothing. I mean, we have 4 stores. I don't see the customers on a regular basis. The staff does. And the best way for the customers to be taken care of is to take care of your staff. The fourth item, which in the beginning was the biggest thing for me, was we wanted to be financially successful. We had to have a focus on finance. And I made sure that got into our Bill of Rights. And it was the item that I was probably most concerned about. And I want to get back to that in a second. And the last item was by embracing honesty, integrity, and respect on your path to excellence, which, like I said, to me was very important from the first day I opened my store in North Park, because I always wanted to do the right thing. So I want to get back to the fourth item about the economics, because in the beginning it was my primary focus. But as the business grew, I started to gravitate further and further away from that, because I felt the other items were really more important. And again, we have a balance in our decision-making process by using all that. But what I found is the less attention I paid to number 4, and the more I paid to take care of our customers by being involved in the community, by taking care of our staff, and by doing it with honesty, integrity, and respect, the better our bottom line was. It just kept on happening. I kept on saying, well, you know, the staff needs more help. Oh yeah, well, we don't have to worry if it costs more, we'll eat up the cost. Well, you know, let's do these charitable events. And the bottom line kept on getting better. So it really was a lesson for me to realize that sometimes focusing on the bottom line doesn't help the bottom line. So there were a couple other things that I've also learned in the process as we've gone through the Bill of Rights. And I've already told you about taking care of the details, and the bottom line will take care of itself. You really got to invest in your staff. Employees are a lot of times told, here's your schedule, there's the bathroom, show up for work. We do a lot of training. We want our employees to succeed, and the best way to give your employees an opportunity to succeed is to train them well. So we invest a lot in training. I kind of liken it to having children. You teach your children well, and they will succeed. And 3 minutes to go. At the end of the day, because I don't have a lot of time, I'll give you one other story about honesty and integrity. We once got a delivery of organic watermelon, what I thought was organic watermelon. We had 2 bins that were delivered to us, and we put them out to sell. And we had 1 bin out and 1 in the storeroom. As I was going through the second bin, I realized that one of the watermelons had a sticker on it that I knew wasn't organic. And I started freaking out. I said, wow, what do we do here? You know, I was the only one who knew about it. And I thought, I said, well, this doesn't look good. And I said, well, I'm the only one who knows about it. What's the big deal? And then I just couldn't live with myself. So I said, you know what? Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So I put a sign up on a bin of watermelons that we had, and I basically said exactly what I knew. I said, I found one conventional watermelon in our bin of organic watermelons. Some of you may have bought watermelons already. If you feel like you want to return it, we'll happily refund your money. If you feel like you just want, and you don't have to even bring your receipt. I said, I apologize. I'm selling the rest of the watermelons as conventional, and I hope you continue to trust us. And that's what it really was about. It was about trust, because I wanted to develop the trust with our customers. I wanted to be honest with them. And it really went a long way to develop the relationship that we have with our customers. So, Bobby, can you play the, I got about probably a minute and a half. Can you play the tape?
People say that you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, and you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society, and the ones that didn't, oftentimes it's the ones that were successful loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you got to love it. You got to have passion. And I think that's the high order bit. The second thing is you've got to be a really good talent scout, because no matter how smart you are, you need a team of great people, and you've got to figure out how to size people up fairly quickly, make decisions without knowing people too well, and hire them, and see how you do and refine your intuition, and be able to help build an organization that can eventually just build itself, because you need great people around you.
So last thing I leave you with, especially for the young folks, and I consider anybody under the aforementioned age of mine of 39, find your passion, live your life with passion, because at the end of the day, it's all about the journey. Thank you.